Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Great to have you here as always. And a big welcome to those of you if you're listening to the show for the first time. In this episode, I'm joined by Paul Adamy, a lifelong musician who beat the odds to build a career doing what he loves. Through stories from the stage and from life, Paul shares the lessons he's learned not just about the music, but about what it really takes to turn passion into a path. We dive into the impact of his wife and the foundations of a strong, lasting marriage, the delicate balance of parenting between guiding your kids and giving them space, and what it's like to navigate life without a fixed vision, trusting the process as it unfolds. This conversation is full of insight on the importance of connecting with others, how real opportunities often come through relationships, and how consistent effort and skill building prepare you to be ready for when the occasions arise. Paul's story is a testament to how hard work behind the scenes eventually meets the right moment, and why staying open, grounded, and connected makes all the difference. I really enjoyed this one, a classic of storytelling, and I just love the way that Paul has approached life, very unconventional, and I think it will be a real inspiration to those of you who are just thinking of pursuing your passion and do what feels right for you. I would love to hear your thoughts on this one. Do please let me know. You can contact me directly on Instagram at the Growth Voyage Podcast. Always interested to hear your thoughts. If you could please like, subscribe, and leave a review, that would be awesome. I'd really appreciate it. And it means that we can reach more men who are navigating their journey. Thank you so much. I'm Harrison, and this is the Growth Voyage Podcast. Enjoy. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Harrison. Good to be here.
Yeah, absolute pleasure to have you on. And obviously met you through Will, who we've had on the podcast already, and heard a bit about his story. And he's given us a bit of a glimpse already into sort of his childhood and the impact that you had on him. I'm interested to hear about your journey, and in particular where it all started for you and how that led up to where you are at this point in time today.
Wow. Well, I was born in Queens, New York, which is one of the 5 boroughs. Didn't live there too long. My parents then moved us up to Westchester County, which is just north of New York City. And that's where I was born and raised. I'm a musician now, and I had my first musical experience, I think, when I was in preschool. My mom signed me up for a local music class, and loved it ever since, and started saxophone in 4th grade, which is about 9 years old. Played that for about 4 years or so, 4 or 5 years. And then in high school, like a lot of people, you get friends who play guitar and drums, and they say, oh, we need a bass player. So I started playing bass. Saxophone wasn't a good match for me, so I let the saxophone go, and then picked up the bass when I was about 15. And loved it ever since. Here I am. Made a career of it, and really thankful.
Yeah, I think we'll touch upon sort of where it's led you into sort of this arc of your life and how you sort of followed music into a career. But even just doing music as a career, right? I mean, obviously different generations, but I presume it's been the same message usually across the board. It's right, okay, it's survival mode. You've got to get a job, you need to pay the bills, and it's go, go, go. So was that still somewhat a factor in your life, or were you just, the second you were put in front of an instrument, you were like, yeah, you know what, this is the route I want to take in life?
You know, I knew pretty quickly. I did go to college, and my parents wanted to see that happen. You know, the whole saying about you should have something to fall back on. It still happens today, obviously. But I think when you have something to fall back on, then you usually do fall back on it. So I just flew without a net. Only went to college for a couple of years, but then I was so busy playing, and it was so expensive that I dropped out. And as long as I had enough money to pay the rent, feed myself, put gas in the car, I was good. I never really needed a lot of the material things. I never thought about saving for a house or having kids and a family and a wife. I just went all in.
Yeah, and I think it's very easy for us, especially in today's climate
Mm-hmm.
economically. It's always thinking about the future.
Yeah,
And a lot of the time when I speak to people, the goal is, right, just make enough money so I can have a family
yeah,
one day. But you're saying actually you were just living sort of day by day, doing your
totally.
passion, right?
Yeah, totally day by day. Um, I'm thankful it worked out. Maybe it's a little naive at the time, but when you're in your 20s, I don't think, at least I didn't think about my future and retirement and even living this long. Um, I just did it because I loved it, and I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, but I think especially in the music profession, right? Because I've had friends who are musicians and they're like, man, it is difficult to earn money in this space. Like
Absolutely.
it's really, really difficult. So did
Yeah.
you find that? Take me through that arc of, right, I've got a passion. Okay, I'm going to make it as a musician. Was finances even a struggle at one point? Talk me through that arc into, right, I've got a passion and now this is a career that I can actually earn a living off.
Well, yeah, there's good months and bad months, and um, I just plowed right through it. Like I said, I didn't really think about the future too much. I just found a good group of musicians, mainly from my time at the University of Bridgeport in Connecticut. It was a really good band, and we were working all the time. And back then, it was about getting a record deal. Today, not so much because musicians have to make their money either touring or selling merchandise. Back then, if you were able to get a band who had a record and successful and you sold enough, then you could make a living out of it. Um, and being in the New York City area definitely helped too, because you want to be around as many people as possible, as many opportunities as possible. And New York City, Los Angeles, Nashville, and London probably too are really the only cities that have enough work. If you're in the middle of the country and you have a band, maybe you're going to play weekends or something, and there's not a lot of musicians in your community, so your options are going to be a lot limited. But being in New York City, a big city with lots of great musicians and recording opportunities and playing opportunities, and then eventually I got into Broadway, which was off my radar for years. But Broadway's been a great opportunity for actually the last 25 years doing that. When I was in my 40s, I had enough other friends playing Broadway, and that was a great move for me to step into that world too, because union work has pension. Even though I was doing a lot of TV work before then, I was working with one of the busiest composers, TV composers in the country, and he kept me pretty busy for a while, a guy named Peter Fish. And that's union work too. But the Broadway thing, when you're doing 8 shows a week, and if you're on a hit show like I was, Mamma Mia ran 14 years. I did a bunch of shows before that, and I did Kinky Boots after that. But when you get that consistent work under a union contract, then you really get the security that most musicians don't get. And you have to be in New York to get that.
See, I listen to that and I can sense an immense amount of gratitude that, right, that you were
Yeah,
able to live your passion and earn money doing it.
totally.
Was there ever a point where, because you see this warning quite a few times, right? It's like, oh, if you end up doing your passion and it becomes work, you'll end up resenting it. Was there any element of that, or was it always play to you?
Um, yeah, not really too much of that. Some people frown and look down upon Broadway because you're basically playing the same show 8 times a week. It doesn't have the freedom and the opportunity to really express yourself. You really have to play what the composer and the orchestrator have written for you to play. So a lot of people have trouble with that. You know, if you're a true jazz musician, then Broadway would be antithetical to who you want to be as a musician. So I was fortunate enough to be totally comfortable with doing that, and you're able to sub out, as they call it, where you take off from the show. You get vacation days, but beyond that, if you have something else you'd rather do, then it's really great opportunity to go do that. Plus, you give other people work. So you go off and do other things that you love, get away from the theater, and so the flexibility there. And then coming back to the show, like I said, I was really fine with playing the same show.
And again, as you were alluding to, there seems to be a big element of community there, right? It's like, okay,
Yeah,
you're helping each other and you're part of something that's greater than
That's right.
yourself. I think that's a big part of the journey. It's like suddenly it's not so self-centered. Oh, I've got to make this work. It's like, okay, how can we make this work?
Yeah.
How can we bring joy and peace to other people's lives?
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of it, right?
yeah. And I felt as a chair holder, when it's your show and you bring other, got some loud motorcycles here in Bali. When you have that opportunity to bring other people in and play the show while you're off doing something else, I love doing that because everybody needs work. That's how I came up in the industry too. When somebody's busy, they call you and you come in, you step in their shoes, and hopefully you have the preparation and the talent to pull it off.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the famous saying now, but it's right. You've got to be prepared, and as long as you're prepared,
Right.
then you'll be ready
That's
when
right.
the opportunity arises.
right.
But if you haven't put in the work beforehand,
Totally.
so it's almost like this, right? You're meeting the universe halfway, right? You can't
Right.
just. It's not just right. You've gone there and made the opportunities happen, and you're putting in the practice, and you're getting
Right.
up to that level. You're putting in the reps to
Yeah.
become skilled, so that when fortune does arrive and the opportunity does arrive,
That's
you
right.
are ready. So I
You're
think it's
ready.
really a really important element to that process.
Totally. I think there is a saying, I don't remember exactly how it goes, but
The harder you try, the luckier you get.
yeah, that's probably one of them. But also, opportunity is a cross between luck and preparation, or probably screwing it up somehow. But yeah, you want to, through your networking and playing with other people, you gain a reputation, and that's really important. But then you want to be able to step into those shoes and do as good a job, if not better, than the guy you're playing for.
What's your perception of this idea of luck then? Because I see both sides to this argument, right?
Mm-hmm.
I see some people say, oh, right, people are only rich or they've only made it because they were lucky.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course, there's going to be elements of luck along the way. But
Yeah.
hang on, there was still a lot of hard work that went into that.
Yes.
So what's your
Yeah.
perception of this? Because I think only you're going to make those opportunities happen. No one else has
Yeah.
done that. So I think you've put yourself in that position to then be able to receive these opportunities, right? Is that the way you see it?
Yeah, I think so. There were certainly some. I think there's some. Even though I was in the New York City area, I probably didn't take advantage of all my opportunities early enough because maybe I wasn't confident enough. But when I gained the confidence and you get a certain amount of success, and you're playing on TV shows and film scores and radio and TV jingles and Broadway. I think growing up in the New York City area, I didn't take advantage fully of the networking I could have done. It took me a while to build my confidence. There's so much competition and so many really great musicians. But gradually I got there and I made some really good connections. And I could say now it kind of worked out.
Yeah, and I feel as though there's that saying as well. It's like it's the people you meet. It's not necessarily of course, there's the qualifications and the skills
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
But eventually it's right. Who are you exposed to? Who are you going out and
Absolutely.
networking with? Right.
Totally. I mean, being a musician, it's not like you submit a resume. I mean, we all have resumes, and my resume is basically my website, pauladamy.com. But besides that, it's really how you play. It's not really where you went to school, or certainly your experiences can help. But it's really just the bottom line. How do you play, and are you right for that particular job, that particular opportunity?
And was brought. I know we've touched upon as well this idea of right. You're just always in the present, and you're focusing on just enjoyment and enjoying the process, right? But was there ever? Did you have like an end goal in mind? Because people talk a lot about planning and that you need some sort of direction, even if life's going to take you somewhere else. Just having somewhere that you want to aim to. So was it Broadway beforehand or?
Oh no, like I said, Broadway really wasn't something that was on my radar until I was in my 40s, and a lot of people looked at Broadway as like the pits, you know. It's a joke because you're playing in a pit under the stage, so it was often called the pits if you got that. But I did it at that point because I had a lot of other friends playing. I knew that the union benefits would be substantial and really beneficial at that point in my life. Just a good opportunity at the time, but it's not something that I strived for. I still wanted to do things outside of the pit, and I did, and I continue today. Still doing a lot of recording and playing with various groups. So
Yeah, well, that part really interests me because seeing as I'm not a musician myself, it's
yeah.
like, okay, Broadway, that must be like the end goal. That must be the thing. But
You know, a lot of people coming out of college think it is now, and they want to jump the line. You know, they graduate school at 22 and they think they're going to move to New York and get a Broadway show. And hey, wait your turn. It's not like that. You have to pay some dues. You have to work your way up. Don't try to cut the line. But unfortunately, it's not always about who the best musician is. In this age of diversity, it's a big deal to kind of give people opportunities before they're ready, where people with the experience and really people who deserve these jobs kind of get locked out now, which is a shame because I think there really could be a better way to have an apprenticeship with folks where they learn the ropes, they learn what's required of them and how to handle themselves and how to prepare the music and bring a sub in to play your show. That's kind of gone now. And like I said, a lot of people just want to jump that line.
and I think that's a pattern in any profession as well. You
Yeah.
see people like they
Yeah.
want to make they want to make six figures straight away, and
Right.
but a lot of people don't. They see the end product, but then okay, are you prepared to actually do the work and
Right.
do the reps to get there? And in
Right.
your profession, I've seen it with pro wrestling as well. You've got to do your reps, and you see in the pro wrestling space, you see people come onto the scene and.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people call them an overnight sensation. It's like, yeah, only after about 15 years of hard work on the indie scene,
Right.
grinding it out. And
Right.
I think it's like a rite of
Same thing.
passage, right? Yeah.
It's like one of your previous guests, Jamin. He talked about getting out of college early, and I don't know whether his podcast will come out before or after mine, but I think he was 23 or 24, and he was the boss of people who were 10 years older than him. But maybe he deserved it more than them, and that's cool too. You know, maybe somebody coming out of college at 22. There's some really unbelievable musicians that you just go on Instagram and it's like the level of musicianship is off the charts now. But I think that's true with every succeeding generation where there's so much more that people can learn from that I think the level of musicianship has gotten unbelievably good.
Yeah, and again, it's this battle between right, okay, what's worked for the veterans out there or the seasoned musicians, however you want
Yeah.
to call them.
Yeah.
That's their way of doing things, and then suddenly,
Or seasoned in any line of work, you know?
right. But then now I think we've got the advantage when we're young. I think we're so fortunate where, and you see this with jiu-jitsu as well, right? Where
Oh.
these masters of jiu-jitsu, they would take 20, 30, 40 years to become an expert.
Wow.
Now all this knowledge people can get exposed to, and you see some of the top guys now,
And they get there faster.
yeah, it's
right?
like now you're
Yep.
looking what seven years.
Yeah.
You hear some crazy stories
Yeah.
about young guys who become black belt before the age of, I don't know, 25 or whatever. It's yeah, it's immense, and I think we can really grasp the opportunity and, like you said, like speak to people who've gone down the path you've done, seek out that mentorship and guidance.
Right.
But then also at the same time, perhaps not taking it as the, okay, that's worked for them. Maybe you can take a piece of that
Right.
and then learn from everybody else, and then you can come up with your own
Yeah.
way about doing things.
Yes.
But then that can't replace personal experience as well. I think you've got to go through the trials and tribulations sometimes to work out
Yeah.
the answer.
Sometimes you do, and that's a good thing.
The thing that I've gathered from this as well is that, like, you've got no plans to retire, really.
I think most musicians don't really want to retire because it's not a job. It is a career, or it can be a career. But if, as long as you enjoy it and your hands work or your mouth works, if you're a horn or a wind player, your arms work, then why stop? You know, especially if you're still doing, if you're still playing the instrument on a good level, and you're still having the opportunities that are fun, then why stop?
Right, and it's funny because a lot of the time you see this in some modern society. It's again looking towards the future.
Totally.
Okay, cool.
You hit 65 and it's like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, but I can't think of anything worse. Like
Yeah,
I can't,
right.
I can't. Like we've spoken before, and I've spoken in many conversations about how just the idea of like not having anything to put my energy into, passion, just doing nothing. It's like that scares me.
Yeah, a reason to get up every day and a reason to live and get excited.
Yeah, and I think there's so much in your story we can learn from just being in the moment, enjoying it and embracing it as it comes. Perhaps not too much forward planning. I think plans are, I think, can be quite rigid, and it means that you're not quite open to change. You don't go with
Right.
the different seasons.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. You do need to be open, and music is always changing too, and people are coming up with new ways to play and new sounds and new compositions, and so there's always room for growth. You never get to a point where you're like, you're going to spike the ball and say, okay, this is it, I did it, I'm done. No. Even like one of the greatest saxophonists ever, John Coltrane, you know, was practicing hours and hours a day up to the time he died. There's never a point where you can say, okay, I've reached the ultimate goal. No, you can always grow.
Yeah, and I remember speaking to one of my friends who's really into his guitar and electric guitar.
Yep.
And he was saying just like the improvements when you hit a certain level, they're so micro, but it's
Right.
It's like you know what you need to do to get there, but it takes so many hours of practice.
Totally.
Right?
But you know you're playing the best, and other people may come up after a show and say, oh, that was amazing, and you know whether it was or not, whether you played your best that time, or whether you're like, I think the longer you play, you notice the minute things about your performance that other people might not hear. But for you, because your ears get better, your technique probably gets better, hopefully gets better, unless you get arthritis or something.
What's your reaction then in those moments? So I'm really intrigued to dig deeper onto this because, especially with musicians, right, with anything, right, you know that, okay, especially with music, there's like very small nuances, as you've alluded to.
Right.
You know whether you've been at your best.
Yes.
But then the casual viewer, even some musicians might not even notice that. So
Yep.
how do you battle that in your mind when you haven't quite performed the way you would want to? Did you let that impact you, or did you kind of, when people were praising you, were you kind of detached from it because it's like, okay, thanks, but
Yep.
how much of your emphasis was on that external stuff as well?
Yeah, it's like reviews. You always remember the bad reviews. Whether there's 10 good reviews and one bad review, that one bad review is gonna stick to you, and maybe it's human nature, but you really you really should think more about the positive aspects, because even if your performance is maybe not up to your standards or what you did the night before or whatever, I think we can still learn from our mistakes and hopefully get better. I record just about every performance I do, and I try to listen back and zero in on what I could do better. I learned that early on from a great drummer I went to college with. He recorded everything, and we would listen to the recordings on our way to the next gig, and it's a great way to learn and continue to grow.
Yeah, and again, that can be applied to any skill that you're learning. Just
That's
really
true.
hone in, really watch back, and then really, I think it's the small details
Yeah,
that have perhaps got you to where you are. It's
yeah,
by rather than looking at the whole thing. Okay, where are these
yeah,
micro
yeah.
changes?
Even
And
running your podcast and thinking, I should have asked that question, or maybe the direction should have gone in a different way. But the more you do it, the more you learn. And my son Will, who is a photographer and a videographer, and he's filming this podcast right now, he might learn things about lighting he didn't know, or camera angles, or we can always grow.
I think the key there is putting your ego to the side and just being
Yes,
open to seeing
yes.
that. But I think
Humility goes a long way.
it can be so difficult though to put your ego to the side and really lean into it. I remember the first couple of podcast episodes.
Yeah,
I really would like listening back to it because I
yeah,
know
yeah,
I would like almost be cringing, but then now I've kind of seen it as okay, cool. It's kind of a good thing that I'm reacting that way because I've grown myself and I can learn and detach and then think, okay, right, cool. Now I know how to do
yeah.
better next time. Was it tricky for you to detach at first?
Yeah, because again, you focus in on those couple mistakes that you may have made, and not look at the big picture. I think the earliest recording of myself playing is when I was playing for only about 4 years. But back then, having a tape recorder wasn't like having an iPhone where you just had it in your pocket and you could just record anything anywhere. It was really kind of a luxury to have a recording of yourself if you weren't in a recording studio, to have something that you could bring to a gig or a practice session and be able to listen back and learn from it. That didn't really exist when I first started playing, and that would have been a big help. But I look back at that recording I did 4 years in, and I'm like, wow, it's hard to listen to.
But that's almost a trophy in and of itself, listening back to that and seeing how far you've come, I think.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good way to look at it. I like that. That's another perspective.
Have you learned quite a lot about human nature then? Because I can imagine, especially being in a band, you hear these stories about, right, you're in a band or you're in a group together,
It's
and
like a
there's,
family.
yeah, and there's like rifts there, and there's going to be tension
Oh, I totally
sometimes.
get it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Because it's not only your playing personality, but it's your personality as a person. So how you get along with other people, how you talk with other people, how they talk to you, and then of course you have the playing, whether you get along musically with the drummer. The bass and the drums are always supposed to fit together like a glove. And there's drummers that I love to play with, and there's other ones that I'm glad I don't play with them, or I would rather not. But just like a heartbeat, everybody has their own sense of time, which is basically the tempo and keeping something steady. So I can understand how bands break up, and just like relationships break up, and it's time to move on sometimes.
and was it a case of you, because now, we have the luxury of just having instant access to books and how to win friends and influence people and
Access to
communication,
what?
just books and resources
Oh,
to
books. Yeah,
learn
yeah,
about communication
yeah,
being one
yeah,
of them.
yep.
Were all of your teachings or lessons through just lived experience, would you say?
I'd say most of them were. I had some really great teachers growing up, but I think I learned most of it on my own and from other musicians who didn't play the bass. There's a lot to learn. Like this drummer I went to college with, I probably learned more from him than any other musician.
And again, it's just being open to learning. I can imagine in the music world and every other world, it's very easy to get wrapped up in your personal feelings and
Yep. Yep.
centered around that. But then I think just being open to learning, okay, what are you learning from these interactions? What are you learning about people? And I wonder if there are any aspects throughout your career where you had a really sort of profound sort of lesson from somebody else along the way. Because I guess we all sort of stand upon the shoulders of others in some sense.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. I can't think of anything in particular, but um, there's always something to learn from even people that you don't enjoy playing with, I think.
I suppose in that instance, it's about just, okay, right, cool. How can we meet common ground here? Or how
Yep.
can I even just manage my
Yep.
emotions?
Yep. Yeah, because it's music is a conversation too. So you can converse with somebody, and sometimes you have a meeting of the minds. Sometimes you get along with people. So sometimes there's an immediate connection, and it's the same thing's true with music.
Would you get nervous before gigs?
Um, Not so much anymore, but I would certainly, yeah, in the days coming up, definitely.
Yeah, because I,
Especially the first time in a recording studio when you see that red light come on, and you know time is money, and if you screw up, then they got to do it again, or you got to raise your hand and say, I need another take, and you know that costs money. Usually, recording studios are not free, so
yeah, I can imagine that's something I found with pro wrestling
mhm.
was, yeah, in training, you feel some way, you feel confident, but once you're out there on the stage in front of
Yeah,
sometimes 150 people, it's like
wow,
the nervous system. And
yeah,
now,
yeah,
unfortunately, I've learned a bit about nervous system
yeah.
regulation, but that probably wasn't a thing back when you were doing stuff. Or I don't know if you had any
Um,
tips back then.
yeah, that would have been a great course to take in college, but just like a business course or how to budget your finances, it wasn't taught in music school, and certainly stage fright, which is common for a lot of people, um, probably should be addressed a lot more than it is.
I see it a lot, and it's something I can relate to in my journey where I consider myself a great goalkeeper in football because that was my sport
Oh,
when I was
right, right,
younger.
right,
And in training, I'd make all these great saves and shot stopping, but then during the matches,
right,
I'd get so
right.
overworked and
And
I'd
if
get
you
so
let a goal
nervous.
get by you, right,
Oh, it'd affect me so badly.
right,
Yeah,
you'd be thinking about it the rest of the game.
yeah.
And soccer matches are usually low scoring, right? So one goal could be the difference between winning and losing, right?
I'd get so nervous, and it
Yeah.
was only I remember in my own journey once I conceded a goal, it was almost actually like I was like, oh, phew! It was like a sigh of relief.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right, I've conceded now. Now I was
Okay.
more confident because it's like, right, I've got nothing to lose, and then that's where I'd
Right.
perform well.
And if your offense scored a couple goals, then you could be more confident again, probably, right?
Yeah, and then it's like, okay,
Yeah.
cool, I've got an opportunity to save the game now. But
Yes, right.
I really struggled with that
Yeah.
nervous system stuff. I wish I'd learned about
Yeah.
that sooner for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on musicians and athletes, I think more than, if you have a corporate job and you're in the office, okay, I guess what you would be most afraid of is your company losing money or you making a mistake which costs the company money. I know my dad, um, he was a business major and he started working on Wall Street when he first came up for Merrill Lynch, and he was a security analyst. And there was a lot of money on the line, and he couldn't handle the pressure, and eventually he left Wall Street. But um, there's some jobs where that pressure isn't really as intense. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And musicians certainly can have that pressure because if you're performing, whether it's in a club for 50 people or 50,000 people, you still don't want to make a mistake.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah. And if you do, then you don't want it to ruin the rest of your performance because we're all human and mistakes will happen from time to time, but you definitely want to limit them.
And I wonder, coming back, because you mentioned your father as well, did you feel as though you had the belief in yourself to obviously make music a career? Do you feel like that was a big influence in your life or?
Um, I didn't have a big belief in myself. It took me a while to get that confidence up. Because going back to what I was talking about, networking, I think there were probably some opportunities where I could have taken advantage of them better and more because I didn't have that belief.
And did you cultivate confidence just by action, do you think, by doing the reps? Or
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of reps. Yeah, there's a saying, I think not just in music, but you got to put in your 10,000 hours. Have you heard that before?
yeah, that's it. 10,000 hours before
10,000
you
hours
become.
before become competent even, It's I mean, some people are more talented than others, and I think they can reach the same goal quicker than that, or maybe some people take longer than that. Um, I never tried to figure out how many hours it took me, um, but I think eventually you're either going to get there, or then you're going to find something else to do. Like my daughter went to University of North Texas. She's also a bass player, and it's one of the most highly regarded music schools, especially for jazz in the United States. And when she started out, I think there were 40 bass players in her freshman class, and only 2 of them graduated. So 38 people decided, okay, this isn't for me. But I think weeding out and thinning the herd is a good thing. And I think you're better off making that decision when you're in your 20s or teens even, late teens, before you get to be 35 or 40 and say, this may be not for me. And then you got to start all over again.
Yeah, so she's obviously become quite successful, very
Yeah,
successful in her own right.
totally. She's at the top of her class. I mean, she's at the top of her field right now, definitely.
So I'm wondering what your parenting style was like, because this is something I've thought about myself, right? If I were to have a son, how pushy would I be? Or, okay, right, sometimes they might not want to do something,
Yeah,
but okay, where's that line between, okay, like pushing them because you know
yeah,
that they'll benefit from it versus not sort of imposing your own style?
right.
That must be a tricky balance to get.
It is a tricky balance, and with people who have a passion, then you want to support it, but you don't want to push people, especially in a field as tough as music. You don't want to push that on anybody if they're not totally into it 100%. You got to be 100% in, otherwise you're going to get disappointed. Chances of success are going to be less. So it was important. Once she was all in, then I'm all in too to support her. Just like Will, he played drums for a minute, but I could tell he wasn't. His heart wasn't into it. I think he enjoyed it for a while, and the kids at school thought it was cool that he played drums, but then he wasn't willing to put in the time, and so that's fine too. I totally was good with that. And as he showed some interest in filmmaking and taking our little Sony Video 8 camera around the neighborhood and with his cousins and making these fun little movies and showing some skill at directing and camera work, and I'll do what I can to support him too. I didn't have, not being in that field, I didn't have the opportunities that I could pass along to him that my daughter had, because I could recommend her and she could take advantage of my networking. So, but I could support Will in his school choice and his equipment and things like that.
Yeah, that's a wicked approach, I think. Yeah,
I
because
think it's the best. It seemed to work out. I mean, um, there's no manual in parenting. You just kind of go with what you think is best at the time, and you're trying to put food on the table and pay the rent, and there's a lot going on, and then you're trying to raise these humans to be the best that they can.
yeah, I can't even imagine what a tough job it is, right? I
Yeah.
think it's very easy when you don't have kids to say, "Oh,
Oh
right,
yeah.
this is
Yeah.
how you should
Yeah.
parent." And
Yeah. Oh, it is totally.
did you find that? Did you have to kind of let go of trying to be the perfect parent? Then was there an element of, okay,
I never thought I was the perfect parent, so I didn't have to let go of that.
you want the best for your kids,
You
then,
want
right?
the best for your kids, obviously, and you do what you think is best at the time. It may be right, it may not be. And then you try to learn from your mistakes, see how they respond and they react, and then you can hopefully modify your parenting and get better at it too.
It's like with anything, it's
Yeah,
again, whether you're a musician, parent, whatever, it's like sometimes you just got to do the reps to figure out what works and what
yeah,
doesn't, right?
that's right. Yeah,
And that
totally.
way, I think you can detach from the I say external success or the label that you put on yourself and just think, okay, this is just part of the process. I'm going to get better at this the more
Yep,
hours I put in with anything. So
yep, that's right. Yeah, parenting's no different. And it never ends, you know. Even though your kids grow up, you still want the best for them, and you will try to do what you can so that they achieve that success.
and yeah, I mean, just by this conversation alone, and from what I know about you, it's been really super successful career, and it's all seemed very aligned. And they say a lot of the time, behind a successful man is a great woman standing side by
Absolutely.
side.
Yeah, my wife is amazing, and I couldn't have done any of it without her, for sure. You'll get to meet her next week, I think. Oh, no, no, no. She arrives on Monday and you leave Sunday. You guys are going to miss each other by one day. She,
If it's meant to be, we'll meet. I'm
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And of course, you just have men on your podcast anyway, right?
Well, we've had women as well.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, because I,
Oh,
I I realized that okay, yeah, the storytelling arc is about men, but then okay, maybe we can get a different perspective on this or an expert in a particular field and throw that in the mix as well.
okay.
Still keeping the storytelling aspect, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm intrigued by this in terms of finding the right partner because how many people get married and say, yeah, right, this is the one, but then it
Yep.
might not turn out that way. So
Yeah.
where was that?
50%, right?
It's huge.
Something like that. 50% of marriages don't work out.
So where was that? Obviously, there was a certainty for you, but what, in your opinion, makes sort of a great marriage?
Well, I didn't get married too young. I was 30, she was 29. So we met when we were 24, even though we went to the same high school. We didn't know each other until we were 24. She probably knew sooner than I did, but um, I think you really have to get to know people, and sometimes it takes 5 or 6 years, or sometimes sooner. But I didn't, and I think that helped. Um, it's You have to have respect for each other, and you have to have a sense of humor, and enjoy a lot of the same things.
And also, because people change, right?
People definitely change. That's a big part of why people split up, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So has there been like a constant, do you think, or have you been able to adapt to
Yeah.
changes?
Yeah. We've both grown, definitely. Um, and hopefully we're still married. So I think we both adapted, and yeah, we'll be together forever. But I think you want to grow, you want to mature. We're both different people than we were 20, 30 years ago. And if you don't let the petty stuff start to divide you and you really look at it from a mature perspective, I think you can have a long marriage.
It's keeping the sort of bigger picture alive, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, the bigger picture helps. Um, Listening. I'm a better listener than I used to be. More humility. Trying to teach my son that a little bit.
I think it's tricky, especially as guys. We always, especially I think in a relationship, you early on you want to kind of get your point across and you want to
Yep.
say stuff, but I think just really taking the time to listen. I
Yeah.
think from what I've gathered speaking to you as well, just like learning whether,
Right.
yeah, just having that sort of partnership ideal in your mind,
Right.
right? It's not about you.
Right.
Same as the musician
Totally.
stuff.
You can't be out there to prove that you were right, and you want to say you're sorry when you really think you're wrong, and you want to continue to grow from that.
Yeah, wicked. Yeah, I think so much to learn from your story. I just love how it's kind of gone against the grain of what we're meant to believe.
Yeah. Yeah, it probably is. Um, Not too much. Whether it's my wife's family or even my family, you always run into people and you tell them what you do, and they're like, "Wow." I mean, most people don't know professional musicians, and they kind of find it fascinating. It is fascinating. It's unusual. It's like meeting an astronaut, or it's not too many people that do that either.
And I think it yields such a great question as well, which is, okay, how do you find that balance between, right, following your passion, which works out for yourself, as we've
Yeah,
spoken about.
yeah.
Sometimes you kind of maybe that security blanket isn't a bad thing. So I think it brings up so many questions off the back of that.
Hmm. Well, my wife has been amazing. To It's not a career for everybody, and it certainly takes its challenges to our family life. Because I would be working, certainly on Broadway, was 6 days a week. You know, uh, so you have to have somebody who's independent and confident and supportive, and um, then you can thrive.
Yeah, that's wicked. Find a great life partner, and
And that's not easy.
no,
It's not
yeah,
easy. There's a lot of people in this world, but to find the right one, um, it's difficult. I can understand why so many marriages don't last.
yeah. And again, I think it's just a reminder, like we're all just kind of here figuring stuff out.
Yep, that's right. So whether you're 30 or whether you're 60, you're still kind of figuring stuff out.
Is there any sort of lessons that you've even learned recently, do you think, when you sort of, obviously we've looked back and we've looked at this incredible life that you've had so far, and there's still, I'm sure, many more lessons to go. Is there anything that sort
I
of,
like that so far. That's good.
well, I mean,
Right. Yeah. I'm
yeah,
not done
constant
yet.
learning.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we'll do, we'll move on to the sort of closing traditions
Okay.
of the podcast. Might be familiar with them already. The first
Okay.
two are routine questions, and
Okay.
then the third one is a question asked by one of the Growth Voyage community listeners.
Hmm.
First one, and yeah, this one's always fun. I remember asking a DJ this question, and it was the most difficult question he got
Huh. All right.
out of the whole
Yeah.
podcast. But as a musician, it's
Yeah.
a song recommendation.
Yeah. Well, I definitely have um, my favorite artists, whether it's the Beatles to Keith Jarrett to Frank Zappa, um, to a new band called Lawrence. But you know, I'm I, I'm still involved in recording, and some of the recordings that I did that just came out, whether it's Dominic Cicchetti's Candy Apple or um, the Ed Palermo Big Band's new record, Prague versus Fusion, or there's another record I did with an artist that I've been working with for 40 years, Vanice Thomas, and she has a new album out. Um, so I'm really proud of those recordings. And then Joe Taylor, who's a guitar player based in South Carolina, um, that I've been working closely with. And actually, it's a writing and recording project. And our first single comes out today. We're recording this on June 27th, and our first single comes out today. The rest of the record, I think, comes out in August. So
Wicked.
those songs are close to my heart right now.
What is it about the songs or even music? What does it? How does it make you feel? Is there a certain type of emotion? What is it about these tracks? Is it just the thought that goes into them? Is it the sound that moves you? What draws you to music?
I think it all starts with the song, with the composition. It's like a great movie script, or it's like a great book. I think if the song is got a great melody, I'm not really a lyric guy, but maybe some people think great lyrics, a great rhythm section track, the groove, the bass and the drums. I think those are what draws me in the most.
Yeah, wicked. I love that. And the reason why I asked that question is because just songs, they give such an insight into a person's mind and their connection to it. I think
Yeah.
it can reveal a lot. So that's wicked. Number two is a book
All
recommendation.
right. Yep. Um, I'm really drawn to biographies, autobiographies, and biographies these days because I think learning about people is really fascinating. And two good friends of mine, Jeffrey Lee Campbell, wrote a book about his time touring with Sting called "Don't Stand" or "Do Stand So Close to Me." Sting's song is "Don't Stand So Close," so Jeff calls his book "Do Stand So Close" about his time touring with Sting. And another friend of mine, Mark Rivera, who's been with Billy Joel for 30 plus years, he wrote a great book called "Sideman." And I just find those fascinating, partly because I know these people, but also because their stories are a lot of fun.
I think that's what gravitates. Yeah, that's a good reminder for me. I think what gravitates me towards autobiographies, and yeah, you can look at all the self-help books in the world, and some of them are fantastic.
Yeah,
But it's right. What can you learn from people and their
yeah,
experiences? Because that's
yeah,
where it all evolves from, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I read all the Dan Brown books, and I really enjoyed those. Um, but basically, autobiographies and biographies now, whether it's my friends or Herbie Hancock or Wayne Shorter, they're fascinating stories.
And when's yours coming out?
Ah, yeah. I don't know whether that'll come out. I mean, my daughter. I don't know whether you're familiar with something called Storyworth. Storyworth is it's a website, but it's basically a platform for people to be asked questions, and then one a week for a whole year, and then writing writing down your answers. Whether you know, how did you start playing music, or what was your wedding day like, or so. I'm in the middle of that right now, and maybe that'll be the closest thing to my book when after the year it actually does get printed and made into a hardbound book, but it's not like you can go buy it. But that might be the closest thing.
Yeah, I'd certainly be interested in giving it.
Storyworth, yeah. Think about it, even for your dad or something.
Yeah,
My brother did it. His daughters gave it to him, and he has his 52 questions and answers. And my wife gave it to her dad, and really fascinating to read their life story.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome. And what we'll do, we'll move on to the
Oh, right.
third question.
Do you miss your phone?
Phone's here. Got it.
Yep.
Third question is asked by one of the Growth Voyage listeners.
Yep.
And yeah, this one comes in from Callum McKenzie. He's left us a good selection of questions, a
Okay.
lot of juicy ones in there.
All right.
And this one is, what is something you didn't pay much attention to early on and had to learn the hard way?
Oh, wow. I think as a musician, this may be a little esoteric, but um, playing with good time, playing with a like your heartbeat, playing with a steady rhythm. I remember again this great drummer that I went to college with, Dave Weckl. He used to talk about time, whether you speed up or slow down. If you play it with a steady rhythm, it's called having good time. And I used to brush it off. And even my college professor, Neil Slater, talked about it, but I was like, it's no big deal. But I shouldn't have blown it off that early, and it's taken me a long time to. Although I should probably say it took probably 10 years for really to have that lesson really sink in, and I wish I paid more attention to that earlier. There's another drummer friend that I've known for years, and he never plays with a metronome. I'm like, you're a drummer and don't play with a metronome, and he's a year older than I am, so maybe some people never learn those lessons.
And what made the lesson finally stick? Because I feel like, again, people can give us advice,
Yeah,
but it's
it's a
only
good
until we
question.
really experience a lesson or an event that it really hits home. So what was the moment for you?
I think in the recording studio, when I started to do more recording, and whether you would play with a drum machine or you would play with a click track, which is like playing with a metronome, and when you get off of that click, or if you get off of that drum machine, and the recording studio is really like a microscope, and that was really what helped me finally focus on it more. And with home, I record at home now a lot, and when you see your wave file, when you see your recording on a grid, and you could see where you're with or against the drummer, especially, it doesn't lie.
And I can imagine that must have been a big wake-up call, because when you actually hear it, you're like, oh shit, hang on, the last 10 years I've been...
Yeah.
I can imagine that was quite a big moment.
It was, and almost every practice session I've done for the last 30 years is with a metronome, because it's, again, just like learning harmony and other things associated with playing the bass, playing in good time is something you can always work on.
It's a big aspect of that going. Is it usually that you have to go slower? Because
slower is harder, actually, because if you think about 60 beats per minute is a second, right? So, and then if you, let's say you go to 120 beats per second, that's 2 clicks for every second. So the space between the first click and the second click is closer at 120. If it's at 60, the first beat to the second beat, which is now at 60, there's a lot more space. So you might get there sooner or later. The faster the tempo, the closer the clicks. And so the hearing that inconsistency and inaccuracy is much more apparent at the slower tempos.
Okay. Yeah, that's super interesting. Because again, I think
it's a little geeky there, but...
Well, yeah, but I kind of see it as an overarching theme for this episode as well. I think the attention is in the sort of minor details, and
that's right.
Just really going. It's
a focus.
Yeah, and just taking life a bit slower, perhaps as well. Really paying attention to the small stuff, because when we're constantly going and looking forwards, we're neglecting a lot of information and insights. From the present moment.
That's true.
So, Paul, so many interesting perspectives and even lessons just observing that story. So,
hope your listeners get something out of it. And it's great to meet you, Harrison.
Absolute pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Where can people find you if they're interested in the work that you do?
It's easy. My website's the best place to go, pauladamy.com. There's a lot of information there, and my Instagram handle is lownotes28.
Wicked.
Yeah,
we'll put all of the stuff in the description.
Yep. Get to your links.
Easy. Thanks so much
again, Harrison. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
All right.